Hello, good evening, and welcome to another Monday edition of the Sunday Night Breakdown. Daniel Routledge and Dave Forrester with you to go through all the action in the British Basketball League. Um, Actually, I've not written anything down about the Lions women's first leg. That was last week, wasn't it? I saw the end of that. Did you see
Yeah,
any of that?
I did watch it.
No.
I'm really conflicted. I'm sorry, I'm just really
Yeah.
conflicted. Yeah, they all get to, it's just reminiscent of Mersey Tigers
Mm.
and Manchester Giants. They get to raise the pots and celebrate, and then and basically potentially produce a majestic achievement, in potentially winning that competition. But then it's done.
Mm.
So I'm afraid, as a long termer, as opposed to a short termer,
Yeah.
totally conflicted by it, and I hope they win. But I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that whether they win or whether they lose, nothing much is going to change.
No, no.
So,
I did see the end of it. Unfortunately, I know they were right back in it, 18 down or something or other, and they got it back towards the end. And
yeah, I mean, Holly Winterburn,
yeah,
23, 8 and 5 or something like that. I
mm,
mean, which is, really, really impressive given the level of players that she's playing with.
mm.
So, I suppose from that kind of on that kind of limited basis, we get some development, or we get
Yeah,
some kind
yeah.
of our
From
some of
from a
our players.
small jingoistic perspective, it might improve one of our
One or
key
two of our
national team
players.
players going
Yeah,
forward. Yeah, yeah.
and it gives, and you can't be down on that. Um, but yeah, it just leaves me
Mm,
a little bit conflicted, and to be honest, as I say, not even I've seen it before.
mm. Yeah.
Literally, so I was at Sports Central when Drew and Andy and Tony G beat us to win the league,
Mm,
2011, and within 12 months, Mersey hadn't won a game and they were gone.
mm.
And it's just a little bit, um, I don't know, just feels lightweight. I don't
Mm.
know. Very unfair on the players, and I will say, I mean, to be fair, they've got a hell of a team. I
Yeah, they
mean,
have got a hell of a team. Yeah,
you know,
it's
it's
not
not
the
an
little
underdog
engine that
story.
could in
I
in
mean,
this
Holly
tournament.
Winterburn is probably the one who wasn't proven who stepped up, but
Yeah,
them are all very, very proven,
yeah, yeah.
at the level that they played at. So, I hope they win. Um, but I hope there's also a review of everything that's gone on, which has led them to the situation whereby they've put together a great winning team and one that's not sustainable.
Yeah. Let's go to the British Basketball League action then. Thursday night, Leicester Riders 77, Bristol Flyers 89. Holmes was back for Leicester, but he played limited minutes.
Mm.
Shelton, 2 fouls in 32 seconds. I wasn't a big fan of either of them, if I'm honest with you. A bit of a nothing on the first one with Green, and then one of those fouls that you described very well last year, Dave, as to when does the roll end in a screen and roll
Yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah. I mean, that's always tough when you get two 50-50 calls within 30
Mm,
seconds. I
mm.
mean, that you could, um, yeah. But
It is what it is.
it's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah,
That'd be the
exactly.
first big American big to be refed out with things a little bit early, and you could make a case that both of them were fouls, just whether
Yeah,
you
yeah, 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 yeah.
just
Ollison with some early threes flies out to a 16-8 lead. They were shooting the ball. We're getting some friendly bounces, but shooting the ball well in the early
yeah. I mean,
stages.
I actually thought Bristol's first 6 minutes was awful, if I'm
Mm,
honest. Ollison made a three off the front of the rim from the corner, and then they shot. I thought they were lax. They were slow. They shot a lot. They lived off the jump shot. They weren't good jump shots. Some were off the dribble. I think they shot about 4 air balls in 5 minutes. And I just thought they're playing like a team that had beaten that team by 40 last time they played them.
mm,
You know, um, but Leicester are fragile, and particularly without Holmes, um, there's kind of that extra kind of scoring option, and particularly fragile inside
mm,
because Shelton's gone with 2 fouls. Walker is basically not being played,
mm.
um, and that kind of leaves you with Adobu and Thomas, and neither of those guys are being brought in to guard Brad Green.
No, no.
When Brad Green got hurt and got foul trouble in the first half, so he wasn't overly impactful. But he's had his way with Leicester this year.
Mm.
and that's the way it turned out. So, Bristol just played with a degree of confidence about them with once they got into the rhythm of the game, and obviously they got Jacob coming off the bench. If Jacob goes 0-4 with those 3-point shots, then it's a brickfest, and everybody's like, rage. If Jacob makes 3-4 or 4-4, then suddenly they get a bit of separation.
Yeah, it was actually a Jacob 3 and then a turnover and Johnson dunk in the first 27 seconds of the second quarter had them into a double-figure lead. Leicester called a timeout down 27-16, but they did have a 9-2 run to pull it back to 27-30, 6.5 minutes in the second.
Yeah, I just think that Leicester's depth is their lack of depth is probably showing more in kind of the elongated stretches in the second and at the end of the third quarter and that type of stuff. Because they're also Connor's not playing. So they're pretty they're pretty shaky behind Kimball at the point guard position as well. And Cheshire and Russell played a little bit in this game, kind of played in kind of in the second, he did okay, but he's by no means a proven BBL guy, and in years gone by, he probably wouldn't be getting those degree of minutes as effectively a rookie come back off injury, and then they have the kind of the whole Teddy Allen paradox as well going on, because when they haven't got a point guard, the kind of the idea is you throw him the ball and he's a scorer. Teams are beginning to kind of figure out, how to play against him and how to get up into him and make it hard. And finally, their defense unfortunately can't last 40 minutes at the moment.
No, and Bristol made 6 threes at 40% before Leicester made one. Ollison hit another 2 in a 14-5 run to 32-44. Smith got his third foul just before halftime. As you mentioned, Green didn't play very much in the first half because of 2 fouls. Ollison with 18 points in the first half, but then he got his third foul early in the third quarter. And then Holmes 2 or 3 from the free throw line, gets the benefit of what I thought was a slightly harsh-looking unsportsmanlike foul, so makes another 2 free throws. It's 52.
Can I remember that? Remind me.
So he knocked the ball away, and it was whoever it was that got called for the unsportsmanlike was sort of on the floor, and they
yes,
might have been a bit of a tangle.
It was one of those ones whereby if there's a turnover, then there's an immediate foul off the turnover, that refs automatically call them as unsportsmanlike. And it's like, okay, but if there's a man behind, then
they were also both on the floor, so it was like,
and you have to say that's a deliberate act. Quite often they're the unsportsmanlike that get called the most. The ball's turned over, and it's an instinctive reaction. To reach out and try and get the ball back and try and recover. And I'm not quite sure whether they always properly assess the criteria for those fouls. To be honest, it's just almost like that's one. Because we see that all the time. We call that all the time.
So that was a 4-point game off those 4 free throws, 52-56. And then in about 2.5 minutes, Bristol scored 14 points in a row to lead 52-70. And that was basically the game.
Yeah. And just going back a bit on the point of that is, the unsportsmanlike fouls I like to have called are the ones where a defender has got an attacker, an offensive player on the fast break, has got 6 steps to see them and still deliberately fouls them. And deliberately to stop the break, as opposed to the ones immediately on the turnover. And I think that they're kind of being ref kind of different ways now. The third quarter, I think ultimately the problem is I think Bristol shot maybe 28 more shots than Leicester in this game, something like that. They didn't shoot as many foul shots, albeit, but Brad Green in the third quarter, he's an answer. He's something that they didn't have an answer to. Even when they missed, he was able to score inside. And Leicester are bitty. They are playing bitty basketball at the moment. They're bitty offensively, they're bitty defensively. They're able to kind of play good periods of basketball both ends, and then it kind of just drops off. And you can see there's a degree of frustration in some of the guys. Certainly, I think in Mackenzie, I can see a degree of kind of, we can't keep having to score 97 points to win a game, and they're really, as I say, they've gone from that kind of Nelson, Henry, and Walker kind of double header to really struggling at that centre position, and Green and Smith kind of outplayed them at that centre position in this game.
I understand that Allen was a question mark an hour before the game, and he obviously played. Obviously, Holmes played a little bit but didn't play, so I think they're a little banged
Well,
up
all
as
right,
well.
okay. I mean, I could say a few things about that,
Well, yeah. That's
I
it
don't
is
know. I
this.
mean, yeah, we don't have injury reports, do we?
No,
So what is it? I mean, the NBA do injury reports, don't they?
yeah,
Kind of questionable left hip contusion, or
yeah.
people,
I
broken
think it was
finger.
an ankle.
All
The
right. Ankle or an attitude? Oh, sorry.
ankle.
Okay. Well, he didn't look. I mean, he's not explosive anyway. Didn't
No.
look even then. He looked probably a little bit off, and he's not getting those kind of easier threes that he got because he's a great shooter. So he's
Yeah.
not getting those threes off people now. They're pushing right up on him and saying you're going to have to drive past me. We're not going to let you step back and shoot threes. So that puts a lot of pressure on him as well. So yeah, that could make sense actually.
Adowu 25 and 10, 9 of 16 shooting, 2 blocks. Mackenzie 15, Allen 9. Those two were a combined 7 of 24. They can't win a game if those two shoot
No,
7 of 24.
yeah.
Johnson 22.6 rebounds, 5 assists. Ollison 20.7 rebounds. Green 16 points, 12 rebounds. They had 17 points off turnovers and 16 second chance points.
Yeah, they're just a good matchup for them. They've got the athleticism at all the positions, and they got the big guy.
Mm.
And that's it. When Jacob comes off the bench and makes shots, they're a tough team.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really is a big turnaround for them because he's the guy who makes the shots you can't really defend.
Yeah.
You know.
Friday night, Plymouth City Patriots 77, Manchester Giants 68. No Roberto, no Anderson for Manchester. Plymouth a 10-0 run in the first quarter, 18-6 up. I mean, they did get it back to 5 in the second quarter, but apart from 8 Walsh points, Plymouth scored the next 23, 45-25, and done before halftime, this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a bit of a broken record with Manchester. I mean, what more can you say? They haven't won since Christmas. That's if there's any game to get wound up for, that's the one.
That was it, yeah.
We're not going to finish bottom. If I remember rightly, in this game, the first 3 or 4 times down, they actually ran a play and threw the ball to Stampley, and he got the ball in the post. They ran a little cross screen play, got the ball in the post, and he scored twice in a row. And I think he got fouled as well. And at one point, he was the only guy who was scoring. And I remember thinking, oh, that's good. There's something there I haven't seen, because that's not something they've ran all season. So they've got the ball there, and then they never ran it again.
No.
Nothing ever came again, and it kind of got back. The whole thing with Harris is still incredibly perplexing because his minutes per minutes numbers aren't. He's probably not a point guard, but not a true point guard. But his per minutes numbers are pretty good.
5 of 7, 11 points, 8:44.
And a team that can't score.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, and I think you'll find that some of those 8:44 were near the end because he played like 4 minutes around the break, and and fundamentally, if you've signed two import point guards, and neither of them is really playing much, and that's Boussier and Harris, and Boussier's played a bit more, and his production's dropped off. But Lewis is playing 34 minutes as your point guard, then you've got a major construction issue within your team. Plymouth are just kind of what I'd call PGing their way at the end of the season. They're playing together. They have players who really don't know how not to play hard, particularly Levi and to a certain degree Wiley as well. Green's a firecracker, so anything can happen with him. So he's gonna play like every game is the one that the $1 million lottery ticket depends on. Whether they lose, the shots are going up. So they're still playing with a sense of purpose about them. We've talked before, they're a little bit short on talent, particularly without Faulkner. But even so, they just win this game comfortably.
Yeah, and
that's
Manchester were 9 of 29 at halftime shooting. And as I say, the game was.
I think Harris was 3 of 3, and Stampley made maybe 2 or 3 of them as well.
Yeah.
I mean, go on.
I was just going to give the scorers, so if you got something else.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a wider point, really. I mean, we have to look at the way this whole thing is kind of panning out now, and you've got a big enough sample size to do that. Now, the reality of the situation is that we have two teams that are league run who are now demonstrably not close to the levels of the other teams. Now, I say that a little bit lesser in relation to Plymouth because Plymouth have got PJ, and PJ's been around, and PJ knows how to keep the team playing, and they're not going to be as rudderless as Manchester have got a rookie coach. But it doesn't bode well for kind of competitive balance. That Plymouth with PJ managed to kind of recruit Copeland when Faulkner got injured. They've replaced a couple of players, so they've at least tried. Manchester just appear to have just kind of dissolved away into nothing. And the difficulty is that it's not necessarily we all talk about what's on the court all the time, but the structure of an organization is just as critical. The leadership of an organization from top to bottom, the difference between Mike Ashley and the Saudi PIF people, is in their mentality and in their approach, whether it's effective or not, whether it's right or not, different. And certainly at Manchester and Plymouth, there's a vacuum at the top. That's the reality of it. And I think we've seen that certainly over the past 3.5 months in Manchester, because Manchester had an owner who was, relying on this for part of his business, and they were playing the way things would be happening. And nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. And it's almost like the league is just kind of just letting it kind of play out. And it is relevant to the league because the league is running these clubs. So, this kind of rich man, poor man thing, and it is a rich man, poor man thing, whereby you've got 45% of the league owned by the team that's dropping £30 million in 2.5 years. And you've got the rest of the, but one of those teams is that league is running is basically, you can have to assume operating on something of a shoestring, or at the very least operating with somebody who is operating without any focus in relation to how we have to get better. And so, last year, I suppose Manchester run by the league last year, but they had Vince.
Yeah.
So Vince is going to drag things along, just like PJ, right? They're going to drag things along, and find a way of making, wine out of water effectively, or at least maintaining the semblance of competitiveness. And we haven't had that, and so that's, it's really noticeable when you split the league up now. There's two league teams at the bottom. Then you've got kind of the two probably more. If I take out Cheshire as kind of being an exception, a slight exception.
Yeah.
You've got Evan, and I think due to their recruitment and a lot of the Ryan Rideau primarily.
Yeah.
Two kind of money teams at the top. Then you've kind of got the four teams that are Newcastle, Leicester, Sheffield, and Bristol, who are all looking at three in their own venue, one looking in their own venue.
Yeah.
In the middle, you've got Surrey, who are kind of upwardly mobile, punching slightly above their weight in the venue that they're in. And then you've got the two league-owned teams.
Yeah.
So on that, it's becoming a kind of a little bit predictable.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because there's probably two obvious exceptions, one slightly too high and one slightly too low. But it's not far off what your guesstimate of budget would be, is it?
No, it's not. No, it's not. I suppose when you have so many games, that kind of, the bigger the sample size, the more it shakes out that way. And the way that we've seen over the past 2 years, what has given the teams kind of with more ability to kind of financially back themselves, particularly London and Caledonia this year, what's given them the boost hasn't been the teams that they've recruited. It's been the teams that they've been able to recruit in February once they've made changes.
Exactly. Yeah. It is the finding Quade Green and Al Jami Durham halfway through the season.
That's right.
And a pretty penny, I should imagine, too.
Well, so it should be. If you can afford to do that, that's fine. But that's not knocking anybody at Caledonia. But that's the way that it kind of goes. So. So the reason I'm kind of raising it is that I'm kind of, that there has to be at some point kind of some, I've banged on about it for a while, but some semblance of an attempt at ensuring competitive balance. And I know people say, well, you weren't complaining when Newcastle were the richest club. I know what our budgets were, and we couldn't say anybody from January on because Paul would have thrown stuff at us.
Mm.
So it's not really about that. It's about the extent of it, and particularly that's what is a little bit jarring for me is the way that Manchester's been effectively left to kind of wither away and rot.
Yeah.
London is spending an enormous amount of money on for instance, David Nwaba.
Mm.
So I say enormous amount in BBL terms.
Mm.
So, you know, there is a tipping point. We're probably not there yet, but I think we're beginning to see how it all shakes out.
Mm.
And the leagues, and obviously we know that Plymouth's losing money. I mean, one assumes that Manchester's losing money. I think the Plymouth accounts came out. We know that, and it's good that they're trying to support that club and keep them going because it's a big area of the country and it's been playing basketball for a long time. But at some point, supporting a club to finish bottom is not supporting a club.
Mm.
That's my concern because that's not how a club develops. That's not how a club gets its enthusiasm. And if you can support a club to the extent of XXX million that they've done in London, then the argument of, and this is a league thing, it's not about 777, it's a league thing. The league has to have these conversations. Then the argument is how much should be supporting, how much, on a kind of a fraction of that could be used to support the Plymouth club and the Manchester club. And most importantly, can we put somebody in there whose job it is to be competitive? And I don't think either of those have that at the moment.
The reality is they need to get an ownership solution to both of
Thank
those
you.
things.
Sorry, you've summed it up in like, just delete, just fast forward to that bit, guys. They
So
do, yeah.
they do. I mean, the reality is it's it's suboptimal, I think is
Yeah.
the phrase in all of that. Wiley 15 points and 8 rebounds, Copeland 13 points and 6 rebounds, Atwood 12 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. Walsh tied his career high with 24, Stampley 19. I've already given Harris's numbers, but 11 points in under 9 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, the other thing is kind of Walsh's minutes kind of surprised me as well because at the moment you've lost every game since December and you're still coming off the bench. I'm like, well, okay, maybe you prefer him off the bench. I get that, but it ain't working. It ain't working. He's a guy who's at the end of the day, if you're going to try and beat teams by outscoring them, which is what they're trying to do effectively.
They're not trying. They're not trying to keep them to 60. That's for sure.
No, but and running up and down. Then put the guy in and start the guy who's been running up and down, particularly when now like Anderson's out. So because the way they bring him in at like the 3-minute mark in a quarter or something like that, they're restricting him to like 26 minutes a game max. And it's generally less than that. So I understand that if you're winning, but if you're losing, where's the issue?
My random stat for this game, and my apologies to Matthew Goodwin for pulling him in, but unfortunately it pulls him in. Borcio Lewis and Goodwin, 0 of 6, 0 of 10, and 0 of 2, is the most misses without a single make for multiple players in a game since Ogundengbia, Wumi, and Raf Toplas went 0 for 18 on New Year's Day 2018.
Well, we know where they'd been the night before, don't we? Alex Wumi over it, yeah, me. He was a shooter. Yeah, I mean, the whole Lewis thing, Lewis is unfortunate. You can see he's just struggled with the pressure that he's had. I mean, I just looked at his numbers on Thursday night. I was watching this game. He's shooting 23% from 3. It's like career 34% shooter, and he's shooting 23%. And that was before the 0 of 8. And you can't be shooting 23% on 7 shots a game, 7 threes a game if you're a point guard, if you expect your team to win. So I just think that, he's been put in situations because the shots he's shooting are basically are self-created shots. Whereas in the past, he would generally, if he was at Sheffield, Manchester, he would generally, even at London, he would get 1 or 2 off a curl, or you'd get 1 or 2 where the opposition would concentrate on a main guard, and he would come off and he'd be open in the corner, and you get the set his feet. And now everything is hard, and he doesn't look like he's going to make one. He looks worn down.
Borsier as well had been 0 for 17 in 4 games before.
And that's kind of the mental that's a mental, it's a mental destruction of where they've gone. They've just rolled down the hill and they've just snowballed into well beyond crisis watch or spiral watch. They're kind of corkscrewing towards the center of the earth.
Yeah, they are. They're well past spiral watch. Let's go to Saturday. Cheshire Phoenix 86, Surrey Scorchers 81. Both teams hitting threes, as is their want. Surrey out to 9-16 lead. Cheshire back to 17-16 in front, and then it all stopped from the 3-point line. They missed 13 threes in a row between them.
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought Surrey were really good in this game for what they had. I mean, particularly Mohammed. And this kind of started Mohammed and Wang. So Mohammed starting at the 4, which you can do against Cheshire because Cheshire aren't playing that big. They got 4 shooters on the court as well. And they were playing without Robinson. And I just thought they moved the ball. Jameson has, I wasn't sure, but he has added to his game. It's taken a while to convince me. But he is a far more effective finisher around the rim than he was the first time he was here, and even in the early part of this season. And I think he's benefited from that because too often in the past he would get the ball, but be a little bit undersized, and he wouldn't be able to finish the layups and finish on the screen roll. And Cheshire, I think again, Cheshire a little bit out of sorts. I think they also possibly had one eye on the Caledonia game.
I couldn't work. I was sitting there watching this game, and I thought, are they bored or have they sort of hit a wall? Or I couldn't. They
Yeah,
just
well, in the last game against Bristol, they shot some awful
yeah,
they
yeah.
put some awful shots, and it was, and in this game it was, they were very Rideau and Rye
Mm,
dependent in this game,
hugely.
hugely, and that's not been when they've played their best basketball
No.
this year. It's when they've got stuff from Jack, Kristen, Offord, Stevens, Holden doing his stuff, and the danger is a little bit certainly with Rideau as he gets more comfortable with his shot. That the more shots he puts up, the less touches some of the other guys are getting. So I don't think Kristen was really involved in this basketball game, and a couple of others weren't. So they've got kind of little kind of it's rich man's problems, but they've got little kind of balancing stuff to sort out, and they were better on in the next game against Caledonia. But yeah, I mean they were flat.
Mm.
They were really flat for much of this game, but Surrey didn't have the horses or the offense in the fourth quarter to keep going. And if you don't keep scoring, you're not beating Cheshire because they're going to
No.
score.
They certainly had the offense in the middle of the second quarter because they went on a 14-4 run to lead 29-41 with 2.5 minutes to go to halftime. Cheshire shot 44% from the floor at halftime, only one offensive rebound in the
Yeah.
first half, which is very unlike them as well.
Yeah, and Surrey are a small team.
Mm,
So the energy, so that's an energy thing. It's a kind of it only takes one. If you're one step faster, you get your rebounds. If you don't, you don't.
mm,
So that's what we say about them being flat.
mm.
You didn't see any of that.
Wang three midway through the third quarter. The lead peaked at 41-57, but the Ryan Rideau combined for a 14-4 reply to cut it to 60-63 early in the fourth quarter.
This Surrey's only game this weekend.
Yes, it was,
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
it?
Well, in
They
that
did
case,
play.
I'll just make sure I don't forget. Wang was great in this game.
They were really good, sorry, and they just
Wang
couldn't
was
see
great in
the
this game.
play.
He ran everything. He ran the screen and roll.
Mm,
Kind of dropped. There's no Robinson. Where they struggled a little bit was they got um the bench at the end of the fourth quarter struggled to score. Lawrence really didn't get the plays that he's been getting off the bench. And then they kind of toggled between some of their guards. Cooper came in and out. Word for Klavinskas, who just played a bit in the second quarter. Looks like he's ready. He nailed a corner three, got an offensive rebound, good size. He's so interesting to see where they go with him. Is he just going to be a Hildreth and off to America? Or is he going to be around for in the long term? But yeah, they just struggled to score in the fourth quarter, and Caledonia have, as I say, with Ryan Rideau, they have
Cheshire.
Cheshire, sorry, thank you. With Ryan Monday night stuff. With Ryan Rideau, they have two guys who can get to the rim.
Let's go through the last couple of minutes of this one.
Yeah.
Ride 2:04 to go. Hits inside 76-75. That was their first lead since 3 minutes
Just
ago in
before
the
that,
first quarter.
I mean, just before that, there was a play. I think the play before where Mohammed shot a layup or someone shot a layup and the bounced off the rim, and one of the Cheshire guys hammered the backboard, and nobody called a goaltend.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I thought that was a pretty egregious because the ball hit the rim. It wasn't like
yeah.
it was going to miss. It was high off the backboard, but it was a pretty clear goaltend. That if you're not calling that, so I thought Surrey got a bit of rough break there.
154 to go. Mohammed with an offensive rebound off missed three from Steele. He was fouled. He made two free throws, 76-77. Shagwell missed the layup on the pick and roll. Wang missed in transition, but Jameson got an offensive rebound, deflected out of bounds for a Surrey ball. They called a timeout. Gooden took a tough shot at the end of it and missed that. 101 to go. They went under the screen on Rideau. That was a good move earlier in the season, but he seems to be knocking these shots down now.
He
79,
made five, didn't he, in
77.
this game? Five or
Mm.
six? So, I mean, you
5
can't
of 7 he was.
you can't do that in the fourth quarter. Not if he's made 4 or 6 already.
Mm.
I'm telling you, if you watch all these games back, the amount of games which are decided by somebody inappropriately going under a screen is, and daring someone to beat them. We call that a dare shot.
Mm.
There are some guys you will dare to shoot, but game dependent. And Rideau's probably a guy to start with. You will dare to shoot. If he makes a couple, then you're changing.
Mm.
But you're not giving people dare shots with a minute to go, because what you're then doing is you're putting the game in the hands of the gods.
Mm.
You want to be controlling the game. You want to be directing where you want the opposition to be going. So yeah, that wasn't a great.
Mohammed then missed a three. Rideau got the rebound. He was fouled. He made two free throws, 81-77 with 46 seconds to go. Steele even heaved a deep three. Bit too deep for my liking, but Rideau was then fouled on the rebound. He makes two free throws again, 83-77. The old hacker LaQuincy seems to have gone out the window as well these days.
Well, you can see he's got a look in his eye.
He has, yeah.
And that's a big thing. We don't see kind of him. He's got an edge to him. He's an interesting guy, Rideau.
Yeah.
He really is. He's got an edge to him. He's got a physicality about him. But give me a guy who's got that look in his eye.
Yeah. Jameson underneath for an and one, but he missed the free throw. They had nobody rebounding. I couldn't believe it. It's 26 seconds to go. A 50% free throw shooter on the line, and there was no offensive rebounders in there.
No, that blew my mind too. I didn't notice that at the time.
83-79 that was, and then Rye got fouled, made two free throws. That was basically it.
Yeah.
So Rideau, 32 points, 12 rebounds, 5 of 7 from 3-point range. Rye, 26 points, 9 of 12 shooting. He also had 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and Jack had 12. They were, 58 of 86 from two guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's good because you've got guys who are taking over. It's not good if you want to be keeping everybody else. Pardon me. I am going forward. But sometimes you have to have that. Sometimes you have to go with your horses, and your horses, the others haven't got it, and then you get willed over the line by somebody.
Wang, 20.7 assists. Mohammed, 16.6 rebounds. Jameson, 13 points, 11 rebounds. They had 17 offensive rebounds, but only 11 second chance points. They did have 23 points off turnovers as well. 17 offensive rebounds and 23 points off turnovers. They probably should win with those sort of numbers.
Yeah.
Let's go to Sunday. Bristol Flies 71, London Lions 86. No Lucas or Jacob, both knee issues. No Taylor, Decker, or Grantham for London. Olasheni hitting shots early. Philip and Nwaba hitting threes. 5 minutes in, it's 18-7, and you're thinking, well, this is only going one way. Well, I was anyway.
Well, you're commentating on it. You have to keep it going. Except that they've got a switch, and they also had, I looked at the way Conor Morgan's been recently, and you take out those three guys that you mentioned. London's backup five was a pretty solid BBL team. But they weren't playing particularly impactfully, I thought. So when London's bench came in, they ended up, because Bristol were down two guys, they were playing against Bristol starters who were in rhythm, and so London didn't have was Jordan Taylor coming in, and Grantham coming in to really kind of anchor that unit. So they had, let's think about it. They had Luke Nelson kind of running the point. Conor Morgan, Josh Sharma, and then a combination of whoever, Sandy played quite a lot of minutes in this game, and somebody else, and I can't remember. But I remember thinking they're struggling to score. That they weren't in rhythm, and Bristol in that gym. Now, what London did a really good job of was taking Ollison out of the game, because Ollison, I think, had 25 and a quarter or 25 and a half against them.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
Time he
last
played,
game.
and you always have to forget about the game that happened last week. Remember what happened last time they played each other. And so you can almost see the kind of scouting report out on the court. And so they did a good job with that. But London stopped scoring in the second quarter, and then Bristol kind of gradually crowbarred their way back in.
Well, it was a bit more than gradual. It was 24-40 mid-second quarter. Green with 2 hook shots. Ollison and Johnson, their first points of the game, as Bristol scored 13 in a row to cut it to 37-40.
My impression was that was over about a 5-minute period. It was kind of it wasn't a kind of a massive spurt. It was just, just hammering away at what they were doing. But obviously London have that Olaseni as well. When Olaseni was in the game, it was a different game to when Olaseni wasn't in the game.
All the starters were pluses on the plus minus. All the benches were all the bench were minuses from London's point of view. So when they started, when they started the second half, they got back out to double figures, but then Bristol pulled it back in again. Samuel and Johnson hit threes.
Yeah, Samuel's hit a couple of threes, which is important, because if Lucas isn't playing, the 2 guys down and Samuel's is going to play, then he has to be an offensive contributor at this point in his career. So he kind of helped them with that, but there was never enough, I thought, to make me think that London were going to lose the game.
No.
And just, I mean, Nwaba is good. Nwaba's played 240 games in the NBA, and he appears to have an excellent attitude, a kind of a fifth gear, which he can go into, which nobody else in the league has got with that size. And a couple of times he went under a screen and he just drilled threes. And it's just like, how are we going to deal with him? And actually, he's probably more of a British Basketball League player than anybody they've ever signed. Insofar as you're going back to the days of yore and John McCord and people like that. All kind of that kind of combo forward who can shoot, dunk, drive, do everything. And London are professionals. They've got so many players that they can choose who to rest, but some of those guys need to play as well. I mean, they played against Paris last Friday night, so they had a week off.
Mm.
And whilst we talk about how many games they've played, they're only playing 23 minutes in each game. I mean, in the biggest games, maybe even the European games, Matt Morgan's probably at 25, 26 minutes. Matt Morgan's playing for anybody else in the British Basketball League is at 36 minutes, and picking his knees up off the floor at the end of the season, So, that's partly partly the job the coach has done, but it's also partly because he has to play everybody a lot to keep them all happy. So it's not really a choice.
It was a 5-point game with 7 to go, but Bristol were running out of steam at that point. London had a 16-5 finish to make it comfortable.
Just on this game as well, we saw Ed, Keith, and Rob. And in the next game, we had down in Caledonia, we had Chris, John Paul, and Ian reffing. And basically what I'm saying is experienced crews. And I thought both games were ref really well. No, I don't think there was much in the Bristol game, to be honest, much kind of aggro or anything like that. But the difference in having kind of experienced crews, people who've been around and been around the league, I think is substantial. And this is where we get back to kind of my hobby horse about 35 different refs, which is unfair without the bottom 15 of them, or the 15 of them who don't get many games. That game was like the old crew was back together. And I haven't seen them back together all season. Because we used to go down to London every year, and there'd be Ed, Rob, and Ian.
Keith,
we know it was coming. We might not like it, but we knew it was coming. And as I say, it's a balance in relation to giving people opportunities and giving refs opportunities. But ultimately, the best. There's only 10 games in this league. There's only 7 games this weekend. The best guys the best, most experienced guys. Whilst they're still the best and most experienced, should be the starting point for a lot of these games. That's my view. And then you have a proper promotion system. You have a proper meritocratic system. But you don't just throw people in the deep end, because that's not the way the system should work, in my view. And at the beginning of each season, you have your fitness tests, you have your assessments, all of that stuff, and you have to make unpopular decisions. And those unpopular decisions are, there's not going to be 34 refs, there's going to be 21. Well, they're the 21 best. Everybody will be better off for that. I'm telling you now, everybody.
Green 15 points, 16 rebounds. Ollison 15 points. Bradley 14 points. 37% field goal shooting, only 10 offensive rebounds.
Yeah, you're not going to get many against London.
No. Olashani 21 points, 10 rebounds. Nwaba 13 points. Phillip 13 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and they're 22 points off turnovers.
Yeah, I'm assuming Olashani's 21 and 10 was in something like 24 minutes as well.
Yeah. I'm coming round to your way of centers as MVPs, by the way. I'm coming that way.
Yeah,
he's definitely very high up on my voting
he's a
list.
game changer, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Game changer. When he's in the game, he is a game changer, because efficiency is underrated.
Yeah.
And efficiency together with the level of skill that he has. Skill is in catching, receiving, footwork, finishing, passing. Yeah, just because he doesn't cross people over and go behind his back or pull up and shoot 35-foot threes, doesn't mean that he separates himself even from Sharma. They play different Sharma on the court. Now, what's his weakness? His weakness is probably, the only weakness he has is probably 6'9". If he was 6'11" or 7 foot, he'd be a EuroLeague centre.
Yeah, he would. Yeah,
he's a Eurocup centre instead, because he's just a little bit undersized, but he's kind of developed his game to kind of suit that being undersized. And in British Basketball League, 6'9" is not undersized.
No.
It's oversized. So to be oversized with that level of skill, he's a great class kind of get out of jail player. And absolutely, you can see 100% pro.
Yeah. Let's go to the fun and games.
Oh wow, this was brilliant.
Caledonia Gladiators 116, Cheshire Phoenix 110 after overtime, proving my point that every single point matters.
I knew you were going to say that. Proving my point that the 95-point rule is undefeated. Yeah, I know you were going to say that. I still think it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
But this, I gather now it's all about
overall points difference. Literally every point now matters.
Well, which I have to say I'm not overly impressed with, but I think
well, it's rewarding Cheshire for blowing people out earlier in the season.
Yeah, maybe. Whatever. But
maybe those 2 timeouts at Manchester might end up being
important. Yeah.
So there's no onwas. Hey,
they did lose to Manchester after that, didn't they?
Yeah, they did lose the fight. It cost them the next game. That was Manchester's last win as well.
Wow.
Yeah. No onwas for this game. So Malcolm into the starters. He was excellent, by the way.
He was, yes.
Shagwar with the first 8 points. So I haven't. There was. I watched some of the first half of this, and then when I got home, I watched the whole of the second half and overtime. So there's 1 or 2 little gaps in my knowledge from this first half. Nick's Shagwar, the first 8 points. Nick's jumped out to a 14-6 lead. I didn't see why, but Skylar White only played 3:54, and when I wound it back, I didn't see him limp out or anything. Do you know why
he didn't
play?
Start, which was interesting, because he started kind of the whole season, and so I was a bit intrigued by that. Also, in the very first minute, Rideau went out with what looked like an ankle. And came back after about 5 minutes as well, and played.
He was struggling in the Surrey game as well. I didn't mention that, but he was
turned his ankle the first minute of this game, and Chris Dodd stopped the game to let him out after a score. And I was thinking, oh yeah, that's not good. But then he was back again, so he's a bit of a gamer, I think. Skylar White came in, shot 3 threes, sat down again. But they didn't really need him, because what they got was a great game out of Stevens and Christian. So they were basically with Cheshire. It's always going to be Rideau, Rye, and probably Shajwa Those are the three guys, most of the time who are going to be on the court near the end. Then the other two is pick your poison. It could be anybody, depending on the game. It could be Holden, it could be Jack, it could be Kristen, it could be Stevens, it could be Skylar White. And it all kind of depends on who's playing well. And when they have Shagwa, I don't know.
Chagua.
Shagwa, okay. When they have him playing the five, it kind of really opens all the shooters up around the court. I thought this was kind of really high maintenance, high octane game, really kind of well played game. You're right about Fraser Malcolm. And the impressive thing about Fraser is not just the slightly standing in the corner and shooting threes, because he could always do that. But his kind of ability to finish inside has improved exponentially. And also, I mean, and it comes down, I suppose, to being able to be a pro and work on your body
You know
every.
what? You know what impressed me the most, Dave, and I think you'll like this yourself, is there was a couple of plays where he hit a big shot that I think it was one in the fourth quarter, one in overtime, hits a big three, and the first thing he did was, "Where's my guy?"
Yeah.
And ran to his defensive thing. There was no
It's,
punch in the air. There
I
was
would
no
call
anything. It was
him,
just next play.
yeah, Scottish Bridgie.
Bridgie, exactly.
Scottish
That was the
Bridgie.
thing. It just thought
Miserable sod.
Bridgie.
But seriously, yeah. I mean, that's my job, do it. And well, I think his body's changed. I actually do. I might be wrong, but I think there's more muscle. I think he's been a pro. He's not a teacher anymore, so he's been a pro and he's been playing with better players. And in the Caledonia thing, so maybe a little bit of the Holly Winterburn thing. And he's not really had that great an opportunity because of Onwas and because of Paliza. He's been playing spot minutes here and there. He's not been playing with the main guys. So hasn't kind of had that rhythm, but at home in the corners and attacking, he was really, really good. And you look at that and you look at, he was whatever he shot and whatever Kyle shot, and Kyle's getting on 35 now, but you're thinking, well, Kyle was in the last GB squad, so is Fraser close, looking at that. So no, but yeah, you're right. So he had a really impactful game, but Cheshire just wouldn't go away. I mean, Cheshire were good in this game.
So Cheshire led 14-25. That was the biggest lead, but then Wheelenboth won Malcolm 3, 16-2 run to 30-27. If I just spin through pretty quickly, because there's a lot to get through. Cheshire up 5 mid-third quarter, then Malcolm and Moore both scored 5 in a 12-0 run to 71-64. Cheshire the next 6 points, and then a 9-0 run early in the fourth quarter, 78-81. It was close throughout, really.
Well, it was. I mean, Caledonia have just had basically an absolute identity change, haven't they? From the kind of plodding kind of. Part of it is not having Farrell because they changed. They had talked about they played differently when Farrell was playing, and they're still struggling a little bit with those minutes with Oscar Baldwin. So Moore's having to play a lot, and Baldwin, to be fair, there's games where he's been struggled, but there's also in this game he made a couple of plays, a couple of block shots, that type of thing. But the whole demeanor about them has changed. They're actually an offensive team now, and they weren't all season. It's been a battle for them all season, and you see how they're kind of coming out of it. Cheshire's just a team that just balls. They just play. They just absolutely just keep going. In this game, it was Stevens who knocked down shot after shot, which they probably wouldn't have been on the Caledonia scouting report. And then Kristen gets a basketball. He makes a play off the dribble. And, there wasn't an overly tactical game, to be honest. There wasn't up until the last 2 minutes when Cheshire's kind of Achilles heel kind of displayed itself again.
Let's get to the last couple of minutes then. Cheshire were ahead. Were behind by 3. And then, scores were level. Stevens hit 3. Then Green replied. 1:56 to go. It's 92-92. 139. A slap around from Green looked tough. It's hard to say from the angle because the foul was on the opposite side, so it's hard to say it wasn't a foul, but it looked like a tough one. So Stevens goes to the free throw line. He goes 1 for 2, and it's 92-93.
I was worried for Green at that point because he was a bit antsy about that.
Yeah, he was a bit antsy.
And
there was a few times in this game where players reacted in a way that I went, "Woo!" Lucky it's the experience group, or lucky Keith isn't there.
Yeah, well,
Because
they're on
there
the
was
edge.
one, was it Green? Who was it? One of the Cheshire players who was going like this, and then it was like, well, I
Yeah,
don't know. That's not a million miles away from throwing the ball off the wall, is it?
that's true. And I was looking at it from the perspective, how is he going to play the last 2 minutes?
Mm,
Because, that game was a game that Caledonia really should have put away a couple of times.
mm,
Um, and when he got that call against him, I was thinking, and I think the next time down he came and he didn't make a good play. And I was thinking, where's his head?
mm.
But he was able to kind of pull it back.
Yeah, so it was a pick and roll. He got to the rim and he missed it.
Yeah.
Cheshire then had numbers on the break as a result of that. Christian gets the and one. Whelan
Oh,
not quite in front of him.
yeah.
That was Whelan's fifth foul as well.
Yeah.
1:14 to go, 92-96. Green then got called for a travelling violation.
That was the play. So at
Yeah.
that point, you're thinking, okay, so that's maybe he's had that bad call,
Mm,
or he's had that call he didn't like. I'm not saying it's a
yeah.
bad call. I agree with you, couldn't see. And then he's made two not smart plays.
Mm,
The little floater he missed wasn't a great one because he was a bit under the rim, and then the travel he was forcing it.
mm.
And this is the point whereby 45 seconds up four with the ball,
Minute 02, 102.
minute or two up four with the ball, takes a lot to lose the game from there.
Mm, mm,
But Cheshire's one Achilles heel all season has been their last 2 minutes of basketball
mm.
game. The games that they've won and games that they've lost. No lead is too great against them, and no deficit is too great for them.
And the incredible thing is up four with the ball, and then having possession for 35 seconds.
Yeah, because they got three
Yeah.
offensive rebounds, didn't they? And
So
you think
Rideau to Shagwa, he missed from close range, offensive rebound. Stevens not a great shot, another offensive rebound. Rideau missed a three, almost another offensive rebound, but actually then ricocheted out off Christian. So they ran 37 seconds off the clock, but didn't score. There's 25.9 left.
and then the fundamental thing is no threes.
Mm,
You're up for no threes because you're talking about an extra possession to win the game if it's
mm,
two.
mm.
Um, and
It was Green in semi-transition, really. It was,
well, yeah, it was semi-transition off an inbounds pass.
yeah, no.
I mean, that was
I was a bit surprised that they were that far up court, Cheshire, to be honest
yeah.
with
Well,
you.
Rideau was kind of up court, but then Rideau kind of got lost a little bit in
Mm,
Green, and then there was kind of a semi-screen set, but the big
yeah,
guy wasn't up either.
yeah.
And he just stepped into kind of a routine 3-point shot. And, any form of defense taking that shot, because Green's obviously a great player and he's not dumb. So he knows that a three is, we're down four, we need a three here.
Mm,
And I know people say, well, you get a quick two, extend the game, all that stuff. But when you're down four, you get a quick two, even if you get a quick two, there's 18 seconds, any foul, they make a couple of foul shots, you're back where you were. The three means that even if they make a couple of foul shots, you can have a shot to tie the game.
yeah, yeah.
And he's
And the reality is, you're not turning down the look that he had there for a layup. You're
absolutely,
just
and
not.
he stepped straight into
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
and so that kind of execution, defensive execution, in relation to knowing the shots you're going to take away, that failed them there. And Quaddy Green is, he has to be number one on probably any scouting report in the league now, right? Because the reason I say that is because he's not been around long enough. He's not Teddy Allen insofar as Teddy Allen's been around him long enough, whereby people have all seen him now.
Mm,
Right, so they've got an idea. Corey Green's people still figuring them out,
mm.
right? And particularly, where is he at? And in this game, they didn't really have a number one in the scout report. No one's game plan for him yet, and I'm interested to see when somebody actually does what happens, or if anybody's capable of doing it.
So it's 95-96 after that three, 20.1 seconds remaining. Timeout. Rye is then fouled with 18.7 seconds to go. He makes 1 for 2, 95-97. Green missed the three. He wanted a foul again. He was jumping up and down for it. I didn't see it as a foul.
I think I certainly couldn't see it from the angle on the side. I think when you looked at it from the kind of the baseline angle, I thought he pulled up a bit. That wasn't an open shot. It wasn't the same shot he got last time. I thought it was a bit of a kind of a hero shot.
If there was a foul, it's that kind of high five thing that you've talked
Yeah,
about in
it
the
was kind
past.
of from the side, almost after. It was well after the ball. If there was any contact, it was well after the ball had gone.
Mm.
I wouldn't. You didn't immediately see him shoot it and think that's a foul when you watch it on the TV. So you got to be sure if you're going to call that. So I ain't got any problem with that. I didn't think it was a best judged shot. And again, that really should have been the game.
Yeah. Bothwell probably committed 2 fouls, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
before the Rideau is sent to the line. 10 seconds to go. He goes 1 for 2. So how many is that? 3 in a row they've gone 1 for 2.
Yes,
Uh,
Stevens, Ryan, Rideau,
yeah.
they're guys, and this is you've made some poor decisions defensively. You've missed your foul shots, and all the set pieces are what's letting them down. Actually, when the ball's in play, they're pretty good. They're rebounding their shots, whatever. But when it's almost when the ball stops that the problems are occurring.
So it's 95-98, still got a chance. And then Poliza, head fake, gets his man in the air, steps to the side, strings the three with 0.7 seconds on the clock. Ties it
Yeah, I
up.
give a lot of credit. I give a lot of credit to Green. He made a good pass.
Mm.
I'm not quite sure how anybody is anywhere. How anybody is allowing Poliza to be in a situation whereby he catches a ball and you're having to run out at him
Mm.
in that situation. You're not helping off him. You can't help off him. You know what I mean? Just like, yeah, you've got to play. You've got to play straight up. You've got to extend, and you've got to be basically challenging Green to go and get a two, or alternatively, you've got to be fouling him.
Mm.
That has to be a foul situation. When Green's just made one, he's shot another one, and there's 7 seconds to go, and you're up 3. But to allow yourself to kind of help a little bit off Poliza, so he gets to sidestep, and he made a good play, but he's made that play all season. He's got that move. That is his move, and he is a guy who is as unfazed by the score and time and situation as any player in the league. When he shoots it, I think it's going in. And so I thought that was another mistake.
Into
certainly execution wise.
Yeah, into overtime it goes. Caledonia with 6 in a row to lead 108-100 with 2 to play. So now the head-to-head is in play because
Yeah, I'm not happy about this because one of my large bugbears is this whole head-to-head in overtime situation.
Oh, the point shouldn't count.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm quite happy Cheshire actually got back in this game to tie.
Yeah.
Because I think it's wrong. I mean, I think it leaves the game open to abuse. It leaves the game open in certain circumstances to one team actually playing overtime as opposed to win. Because
there was a classic game where something like that happened. It was a trophy game. I think it was London United against Leicester, and London needed to win by 7 or 8. It was a group stage one. And Leicester were losing by 1, and basically they were just both teams turning it over, trying to force the other one to score because London were trying to get to overtime.
Yeah, it's just farce.
Yeah,
it's farce, and it's easy. It's so easily legislated for, which is basically any overtime win it's either a tie game or you reward the win by saying you win by a point.
Well, they in Eurocup and EuroLeague, the points in overtime don't count, so it's just a 0.
And if Eurocup and EuroLeague have figured it out,
Yeah.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. We're all talking about how we need to be like that. Well, we need to be like that. Somebody needs to put a quarter of a second's worth of a forethought into this because I've been banging on about it for years.
FIFA still don't do it though, because there was an international game not so long back where that happened, and then obviously the Lions ladies team last year, in whatever game that was, where they deliberately missed a free throw to lose by 1 rather than go to overtime and risk losing by 8.
Yeah,
Now, bit them on the arse in the end, but
it did. But even so, it's not the way. It's not the way games should be played. Here's me getting my old kind of 1950s kind of wasn't think better in the war, all that type of stuff on. It just seems to me to be it encourages.
We could go back to best of 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
Much easier for those of us with spreadsheets.
Ah.
Anyway, let's get excited about a game that came down to points difference, Dave. Come on. And for those who don't know, they'd played 3 games. It was 2-1 to Cheshire in the head-to-head, and Cheshire were +6 in the points difference in the head-to-head. So Caledonia needed to win by 7 to win the outright head-to-head. And obviously Cheshire would win the head-to-head if they lost by 5.
Yeah.
So, where are we? We're at 108 to 101. Rye with the 3, 140 to go, 108, 103.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Again, another one I thought was a little tough against Christian, but it is a big slap down at the ball. So even if you
Yeah.
get the ball, there's probably some hand or arm in there somewhere. Green to the free throw line, 122 to go, 110, 103. Rye quickly back, basically ran rim to rim,
Yeah.
laid it in. 115 to go, 110 to 105. Corner three, I think this was the one I was talking about earlier with Malcolm,
Yeah.
where he knocks down a huge shot in the corner, 56.8 seconds to go, and he's immediately,
Yeah.
where's my
That's the
guy to
game.
defend? 113, 108. And as you say, that's the point which I think Cheshire were now into. We need to lose by
Yeah. But it's
5
true.
rather
Yeah.
than trying to win the game. Rideau misses, goes after his own rebound, and then it was called a held ball and Caledonia possession. Stevens a bit of a clumsy foul. 41 seconds to go. 2 free throws. I've managed to not write down who shot the free throws, but they were one of two, whoever it was. 114, 105. Green knocked it away from Rideau, but Rye picked it up, forced his way to the basket.
Yeah.
114, 107 with 31 seconds to go. You look like you were jumping in there, Dave. No?
No, 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 no,
No.
no. I'm just thinking what's
Uh,
coming.
28 seconds to go, 28 and a half. Rideau knocks it out of bounds, Caledonia ball. 20 seconds to go. Christian's fifth foul. Moore goes to the free throw line. 115, 107. So Rye gets blocked by Moore.
Yeah.
Paliza gets the ball. He's fouled. He goes 1 for 2.
Yeah.
116, 107.
Yeah.
So it's 9 points. So obviously they need a three. Rideau is fouled on the floor. Um, Missed it. Missed the first badly.
Yeah.
First free throw. And then Ben, you can see Ben shouting at him. Missed the
The ball
second
game
one.
play. Yeah.
Tip
So
it
the ball
out. There's four
play.
4.3 seconds to go. They need a
Yeah.
three to make it 6. So he misses the second, but Paliza tips it all the way out. Was it Rideau that tried to keep it in
Keep
bounds?
it in. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But
But
it
that,
had bounced
well,
out bounds beforehand. So it's a Cheshire ball with 2.2 seconds to go, down by 9.
yeah.
And my look of the players' reaction and the coach's reaction, there's a shot, I think it's from the baseline camera.
Yes.
After the three goes in, was Ben was delighted because what happens? They inbound the ball. Stevens in the corner with the three, knocks it down with zero point 0.2 seconds. And I'm convinced the players had no idea. Certainly the Americans on the court had
I
no
think
idea.
Lisa had an idea.
Yeah, yeah. But
He did
but
a little.
I think Stevens,
I
I
don't
think
think.
Rideau
I
were just
don't
looking
think
like we're
Green.
just doing what we're told. We have
So
no
yeah,
idea.
three. Yeah, and you know, again, it's not smart defense by Green on that
Mm,
occasion. You know, you can't let him catch the ball. You have to be aware of this stuff.
yeah.
I mean, in reality, it may make a difference. It may not. Ultimately, given the way that Bristol handled Cheshire last week, then Bristol might not be the best matchup for Cheshire if they
Mm,
finish sixth.
mm, mm,
Bristol finished seventh. You know, I'd certainly actually probably if I'd be, I don't know, if I'm Cheshire, I'm not really. I think I would prefer to play Newcastle, Leicester, or Sheffield. To be honest,
mm,
I just think Bristol are an interesting lineup in that type of situation. Um, but yeah, but it might make it. But you've got another game score situation at all times.
mm.
So what's the total points difference at the moment?
So the points difference in the head to head is obviously 0 because it was 6. The
Yeah,
total points difference, Cheshire is so far ahead they're not going to get caught. Uh, is it? I tweeted it out yesterday. Let me just have a look. It's plus 175 for Cheshire and plus 95 for Caledonia, so they're 80 points behind.
but now albeit to catch them, then Cheshire have to lose at least one game, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, and who gets to play Manchester the most because
I haven't looked that up,
yeah,
but it is, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, you could be ending up putting 60, and some team could be trying to put 60 on them. Yeah, oh well, it'll be a little subplot to be semi interested in.
I just wish I was there. It's like Tahir
Yeah,
said in the thing, sub Dan in for this last play for the
yeah,
for the
absolutely.
points difference. Get excited. They turned it over on the inbound, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
There was only 0.2 of a second anyway.
I
Uh,
think going forward, though, I mean, I think Caledonia are, already. They've just got. I mean, they've got an interesting kind of reintegration of Ali Hodges if he's ever
that's
get.
the question for me, isn't it? If he
They got,
comes back, how do they use him?
yeah,
If he does get back, because
he's a post guy.
the blossoming of Moore while he's
Yeah,
not been there,
yeah, that's right.
been amazing.
Yeah, and Green, 37 in this game, wasn't it?
Mm,
I tweeted something out about this. How do you Drew asked, what people have to put him on the scouting report. It's like you can't. I mean, I said this a little bit when Newcastle hadn't played him last week. Disappointed that Newcastle's, really had no strategy other than put Ward Hibbett in front of him and let him go past Ward Hibbett.
mm,
Um, I don't think you can let him play in the screen role. I just don't think you can. He's too good at kind of the mid range in the 15-foot pull up,
mm,
and he can get to that spot anytime he wants. And the thing that's important about that is if you can get to that spot anytime you want, you're comfortable in the game. He's
mm,
comfortable in his head because he knows that spot is there and he knows that that repetition is there, and when he needs it, it's going to be there. Um, so I don't think you can allow him to come off screens like that. Um, can you go under screens? It's a heck of a risk because he can clearly shoot it. But if he is shooting it, then he's making it. At least he's not getting the rolls and he's not getting other people involved. And the alternative, which we haven't seen anybody do yet, but it's the James Harden, Luka Doncic defense.
mm,
You trap the ball out of his hands. I'm kind of disappointed that no one's really tried to do that, get the ball out of his hands early and not let him get it back and make some other guys make plays because yeah, he's only been in the league like 9 or 10 games. But after about 5 games, I think it was pretty clear
mm,
that he was going to take over when it mattered. And he won this game for them by knocking down that three off the dribble
mm,
and making a pass to Poliza. And after that, you just they couldn't guard him in the screen roll.
mm,
So that again, an interesting strategy, and it probably isn't one for London because that'll only be one game at the end of the season if they both get to the final. And London can probably defend him because he's little and they can defend him with normal screen roll defense
mm,
because of their size. But nobody else, I don't think, can. I think, this is a time whereby, you've been coaching these guys all these months, coaches, let's see what they can do.
mm,
Defensively, can they do different stuff to deal with the threat of a specific player? Because if you discomfort him, that changes the whole team.
mm,
He's not going to get his 20, but if he's not comfortable,
mm,
then then the snake and the snake rot or the fish rots from the head, and the head green's the head of the snake. So I'm just
mm.
mixing my
All the
red.
animals
All
together.
the animals, yeah, yeah. Is that the snake? So we can get rid of that head and you can make that head uncomfortable, and that's how you beat this team.
And if he gets 20, that's 17 less than 37.
Well, it is, and also he won't be comfortable because he'll be expecting to be able to get to his spot. It's this expectation of I know I'm comfortable, I know I can go.
Mm,
And I say the only thing that kind of threw him was that foul.
mm.
That was called, and it threw him for 2 possessions. He made 2 bad decisions. But then by letting him step into that 3-point shot, they let him
You
back in
got
the game.
back, yeah, yeah, yeah. So 12 of 19 Green, 37 points and 8 assists. Malcolm, 8 of 12 shooting, 23 points and 8 rebounds. I think he had 7 in overtime, did he? Certainly 5. Whelan and Bothwell both 15. They were 40 of 74 from the floor and 11 of 24 from 3. Uh, Rye, 21 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. Stephen, 20 points, and Shogwell, 19. I don't think we'll spend as long on this one. Let's get to Manchester Giants 68, Sheffield Sharks 99. No, Anderson. Manchester sitting in a zone, and it did kind of throw Sheffield for a little bit. But then they scored 11 in a row and went 23-11 ahead.
It did. This was just a combination, this was just a kind of a comparison of shot quality.
Mm,
Sheffield's shot quality, even when they weren't making them, was excellent. I mean, I could see Paternoster's eyeballs widening at the amount of space in the middle of the Manchester zone, metaphorically, of course, because it's like they were and I think at one point Rob even said something on the lines of the challenge for them is that open how quickly do you shoot it, because you can get a quick shot when you're open, but against the zone, do you get a bit awkward when you take them? You get a bit uncomfortable when you take them. That can happen. It's a psychological thing. But over 40 minutes, that balances itself out, because eventually these guys aren't going to miss open shots over 40 minutes, And yeah, the zone was, it didn't overly convince me. I think at one point William Lee was playing defense on the halfway line in a man, and it wasn't under the rim. And then another time, Nick Lewis is extended way out there and leaving massive amount of space in the high post, and it was kind of, okay, we're going to do this because we haven't done this, and what else can we do? It was a bit desperate, I thought. But then again, you can't criticize people for trying to do stuff when they've been winning. I thought that would be unfair. It's just that it didn't look like it was a particularly well drilled operation, did it?
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Manchester did make enough shots in the second quarter just about to hang on. They actually won that quarter 33-27, which is the most points Sheffield had given up in a quarter this season. So they were only down 6 at halftime, 47-53, but Sheffield were a different beast defensively in the second half. 5 from Green, 8 from Pipkins. It's out to 56-72 and just kept going from there.
Yeah, I mean Sheffield. It's an interesting one for Sheffield because they're slow, and it's difficult because it's Manchester, and obviously the game was theirs, and the lack of emotion on the Tiba's face, I think, kind of gave you an idea as to the level of kind of jeopardy he felt in this game. The way the game was going, he was very much sitting there just watching it go by, just letting his team do what they're meant to do. But notwithstanding that, there's some positive signs for them. I mean, their issues now, since they kind of remade their team in February, their issues always been, we've got 10 players, so how are we going to infiltrate them all into a kind of effective roles? And if you look, and the starters have always been okay. A couple of times they've started off poorly, but that they're starters for a reason, and they've decided it's going to be Aitel Rock and Ramsey in the backcourt, and they're going to bring Pipkins to set off the bench. But in this game and the last couple of games, you've had positive games from Delpeche. Nixon is kind of really fitted into that role of being the kind of your gun shooter off the bench. He knows he can shoot the ball. He's not having to worry about setting other people up, and he can clearly shoot the basketball. Glasgow's just going to do whatever the coach asks because he's that type of guy. I know him, and Pipkins is actually a very good guy to have against some of the opposition second units. So the only guy who's really you'd be not so sure about is Nichols. Nichols has struggled a little bit. But if you got 9 out of 10, and then the other one's going to come around quick enough. So they are quite settled now. The question will be in the playoffs when the pressure is on. You're not playing 10 guys 20 minutes. And
against Manchester's zone.
Against Manchester's zone, and there's some players, you're not going to have 10. You're not going to have 10 players that are all playing their best. They're all in rhythm in a playoff game. You're not. So the decisions you have then are the ones that really are the difficult ones, which impact your winning and losing. Who am I going to finish with, basically? Who's going to finish? And he's getting more information, I think, about his team at the moment as to who that can be, which can only be good. The question is whether I don't think either Newcastle or Leicester want to see Sheffield. I just don't. No, I just think the way they play is a little bit of a. I think Newcastle Leicester probably prefer to see each other, and then they could all run up and down and outdone each other. But
and Sheffield have beaten Newcastle twice in recent weeks as well, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, one of those games was at the arena after Newcastle had come back from Denmark. I'm not quite so fixated in the regular season on what's happening.
But the point is they'll go into that thinking, well, we've already beat them.
They won in Newcastle, you've won in Newcastle. I mean, if they end up playing the first leg away, I mean, that's probably the best they could imagine. But whereas I don't think Sheffield would fancy Cheshire, I think Cheshire v Sheffield will be difficult. Or Caledonia v Sheffield. I mean, Caledonia is slightly different, but Cheshire are a different team. Cheshire played kind of the pressure that they put you under to score isn't something I don't think that Sheffield would particularly like. Whereas against Newcastle, against Leicester, you're going to score. You're going to get, you're going to be in the 80s. And Cheshire and Sheffield will fancy their opportunities of beating anybody when they're in the 80s. So kind of an interesting set of dynamics with all the teams. Who's fighting for various different positions. But it'll just end up where it ends up, won't it? And then
it will, yeah. Giants were just 21 points in the second half, which is the lowest scoring half against Sheffield this season. Lewis, 7 of 18 for 15 points and 5 assists. Stampley, 12.7 rebounds. Lee, 12 points. I put 11 assists. It can't be 11 assists, can it? It must be 11 rebounds. Eitel Rocks, 17 points. Ramsey, 14. Nixon and Pipkins, 13. To your point, 50 bench points for Sheffield. So pretty much split even. And also 21 points off turnovers. Table, there's only 2 or 3 games to go. 4 for a couple of the teams, but London 30-3, back-to-back 30-win seasons for London. Cheshire 21-11, Caledonia 21-12. Newcastle in the top 4 still, 17-15, so in their hands. Sheffield just behind them, 17-16, and Leicester down to 17-17 in 6th place. Bristol 14-19. Surrey 13-20. Plymouth 7-25. Manchester 7-26. And of course, Plymouth, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, won the head-to-head with Manchester. So
you don't see Manchester winning another game before Christmas.
No.
2027.
And just to pick up on your point of the playoffs, I've been told that the highest seed gets to choose where the first game is.
Well, there you go. Sorry for the misinformation, guys. There you go. If the league was more forthcoming in its information, then I wouldn't have to speculate and kind of drag the truth out of them, would I? Interesting. Also, I want to assume Coach Simonian appealed his disqualification because he was coaching at the weekend.
I don't know. I don't know whether do you get automatic points still. I don't know, or does it have to go to?
I think it's 7 days for a ban. The ban kicks in appeal.
But my point is, he's obviously got 5. But is a disqualification automatic points, or does it have to go to a hearing?
Did he not get points for his last disqualification?
Yeah, but the point is, does a disqualification give you? Is in the old days it used to be 9 points automatically. So the fact he'd already got 5 is already 1 game. Or to get those 9, do you have to go to a hearing for? I don't know.
Well, okay, don't really care. And here's a question for you before we go, because that was something I forgot about last week and a couple of weeks ago. It's happened twice recently. Now I don't know the answer to this. Not this week, but happened once last week, once week before. The team has the ball in the back court. They throw the ball into the front court. Where it rebounds off a body part of one of their own players, unwittingly, either a chest or the back of someone's head or something like that, and then or the leg or something, and then is recovered in the back court again. And both times, the refs called half court, called over and back.
Yeah.
But now, do you have to have any degree of control?
No.
No. So the ball just hits you.
Yeah.
That counts.
Yeah.
It wouldn't count for the 8-second call, would it?
Yes, it would. You essentially, the ball to be established in the front court has to make contact with somebody who's established in the front court. So
that's it. Just make contact.
Yeah. So assuming the ball's in the front, assuming the player is completely in the front court, not straddled the line, it's the same as because there was one. Was it this week where the ball was knocked away and then somebody reached for it, tapped it, and it went into the backcourt. And then when it got it, was it Bradley? Bradley, and he was like, but he knocked it away, but you touched it into the backcourt.
My only thought was the inadvertent. I didn't know this. I wanted to check with you. If it's an inadvertent touch, say if you ping it off if your own player's head who heads it back to you without knowing anything about it. Does that count of establishing possession?
Yeah, the only thing that wouldn't count is the tap from like an offensive rebound.
Yeah, I got that.
Again, I'm not 100% sure why that is, but it was ever thus because I remember getting it wrong in a playoff final and being told by Nick Stannard why I was wrong.
Oh, well,
I think
this
it was
is why you're here.
Richard
Yes.
Windle or something batted
Uh,
it away.
uh,
So yeah,
I
I
think
don't
it's
know. I
because you
don't know
don't
why,
have
but it's
control on offensive rebound. You don't have no team has control.
yeah, but that person's hit
Tipped
it,
it.
particularly when it's a deliberate one where they're deliberately
Yeah.
slapping it all the way out.
Yeah.
Seems a bit random to me that given that everything else is, but given Levi Bradley didn't deliberately touch the ball into the backcourt, did he? But he
Yeah.
touched it, but that's the same thing as to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, there we go. So rules are us.
Thank you.
We'll await a referee to come and correct us and say we're
No, I'll be
totally
correcting
rubbish.
you because I'm quite happy
Yeah.
you're right. I didn't know.
So there we go. That's the end of the week. It felt relatively short. If it wasn't for
Yeah.
overtime and points difference, we'd have got through that in half an hour, I think. But
Yeah.
I am doing Thursday and Saturday. Well, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because I've got EuroLeague on Friday.
Uh,
So we can go back to Sunday next week.
Happy days because I've forgotten most of the stuff I've done. What I talked about already. Yeah. It's good. Yeah, you're doing Newcastle on Thursday night. Newcastle playing Bristol, aren't
I am doing that. Yes. How
they?
do you know what I'm doing?
Because you've just said you're doing Thursday and Saturday.
Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah,
I,
yeah. I just
I,
did it out
I
loud.
actually, was there maybe of some astonishment to you? I do actually listen to some of the stuff that you say.
Yeah. I know. It's well. I looked in my calendar earlier and I saw I was doing Bristol, London. I was like, "Is it Bristol playing London again?" And then I went and checked and realised I'd put it in wrong. So
Aye.
it's Bristol Newcastle. I'm the Bristol correspondent at the minute. I think
Good.
I've got both their games this week.
Well, we'll see how they do and see how injured they are. Right, cool. That's brilliant. I enjoyed that. Thank you.
You're very much welcome. Dave and I will be back next Sunday to do it all again. But for now, goodbye.
Bye, guys.